part of this. It's just the kind of person that she is. She's got a big heart. When you think of casting, this is the kind of casting person you want. Somebody who really cares about actors, you know, who really loves the business and respects us as artists. And so I'm really, really, really happy to introduce Leah Daniels Butler as our first guest. I'll give you a little, I'll break it down a little bit before I give her the floor, okay? Because what she's accomplished for us as African Americans, her contribution is huge, and it's worth speaking on, okay? In case you don't know, now you know, okay? So Leah began her career as a casting assistant in 1991. She worked with legendary casting director and mentor Jackie Brown and Kimberly Hardin. And those are my girls too. Haven't spoken with them in a while, but wow, okay? Major, 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 major forces in the casting world. Under their leadership, she assisted in casting actor, recorder Tyrese Gibson in that very, very famous Coca-Cola commercial that really, really launched his career out of this world. So that's worth mentioning. She's gone on to cast Chris Rock in CB4. She's worked with Ice Cube and Chris Tucker, cast the cult classic Fridays. She went on to then work at Warner Brothers with Leslie Litt, which was the senior VP of casting at Warner. She was quickly promoted. She has casted award-winning projects like Friends with Jennifer Aniston, Suddenly Susan, starring Brooke Shields, and also some of our favorite shows, The Wayans Brothers, a show For Your Love, which received 6 NAACA nominations. I'm gonna go on. I know I can stop, and she probably knows
because I mean, these are, thank you so much. They're great credits, but you're dating me.
No, I'm coming. Because I have to date you. I have to date you because you go way back, okay?
I don't want to go that back.
I'm taking them right here. I'm taking them here for today. I'm taking them to today, okay?
Starting the show.
Let's see. She has gone on to win plenty of awards. She currently, well, everything is on a hiatus, but she's casted Empire. She's she cast the film The Butler, and she's won many awards. The Butler was one of them. She's the recipient of the Hamilton Award for Outstanding Casting for her work on The Butler. She won an outstanding achievement in casting for television drama for Empire. And she's in the Casting Society of America. They recently anointed her Board of Directors, where she serves as the only African-American member of the board.
And that was in 2000. I feel like that was in 2000, from 2 years, I think from 2016 to 2018.
Oh, okay, got it.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I turned out.
What'd you say?
I turned out. You can only be on a board for a certain number of years and then you term out.
Got you. And I'm going by her bio she sent me, guys, okay?
I know, but I said the short.
No, I'm like, sis, this is what you sent me, okay? This is what you sent me. Her brother is, I have to mention this, her brother is Academy Award nominated director Lee Daniels, who she knows makes me absolutely crazy. He's a phenomenal director, and it's just worth saying that the talent runs deep in her family. It is just a pleasure to have you here, sweetheart.
Thank you.
If you want me to add anything, please, now would be a good time.
No more. Thank you.
I want to introduce Stephen Hill as well. I want to take a moment to do that so we can go ahead and drop in and get started. Stephen is currently a series regular on Magnum PI. Okay, he graduated with honors in mass media broadcasting from Hampton University. He's a New Yorker. He currently lives in Hawaii though, and nobody's jealous about that. Nobody. Yeah. Okay, he's been living there for the last 2 years. His first job, just for a little motivation and inspiration, was as a copier salesman in New York. Imagine that, guys. Okay, a copier.
First job out of college.
First job out of college. What was your first job?
Yeah.
What was your first
First
job?
job, I had 2 paper routes.
Two paper. How
So
old were you?
I had a morning route and a route after school. I was in the 4th grade.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
See, I got to put my boys to work. Right. Let's see. He likes to give honor to his mom, who raised 5 children. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Raised 5 children, did a wonderful job, and sacrificed a lot. And he honors her through his acting career. He can be seen on his credits include Law and Order as SVU, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Blue Bloods on network, yep, and Broadway Empire, Lewis and Clark, Luke Cage, and it goes on and on and on. Is there anything that you'd like to really highlight that you're proud of that you've done in terms of your credits? Because they go on forever.
Actually, some of all the short films that that not many people see, that
Amen.
go to all the film festivals.
Amen.
I spent a lot of years on the Black Film Festival circuit, so I just want to give a quick shout out to ABFF, Urban World, Black Star Film Festival in Philly, Black Harvest Film Festival in Chicago, Pan African in LA, Gary, Indiana Black Film Festival, Bronze Lens in Atlanta. So I've frequented all of those festivals and urban media makers in Atlanta, and they give you an audience when you don't have one, and they let you they air the films that you don't have money for distribution or marketing and advertising budgets for. So along with that, everybody knows I've done a bunch of films, working on and taking one. When I met Leah, we were at ABFF in 2009 with a film called Papa's Pain and the Kids He Loves to Hate, and we're trying to take that and make it a feature now. And one of my favorite features, a film called Stay Cold, Stay Hungry, with a friend of mine named Eric Bronco, who is now he's kicking some serious butt as a cinematography in the industry now. So, those are the films that I'm most proud of.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. And we're going to get more into you, which I would love us to. But I wanted to start off, this conversation. I wanted to read just a couple of things to sort of set us off in the right direction. I went online and I just researched, just casting for African Americans and the history of casting for African Americans. And some of the things I found was the presence of African Americans in major motion picture roles have stirred controversy since Heidi McDaniel played Mammy, the house servant on Gone with the Wind. Through most of the 20th century, images of African Americans in advertising were mainly limited to servants like the pancake Mammy and Jemima. The roles of the African American community were generally offered usually fell into 3 themes: a tale of rags to riches, a thug life, or segregation. And many researchers argue that the media portrayals of minorities tend to reflect whites' attitudes towards minority. So I wanted to just talk on, where we are now, Leah. I want to start with you on that, where we are. I mean, my first question starting off is, since you have been casting, and casting mostly us, and I know not just us, but casting being one of the African American casting directors, how has the industry changed towards us and casting Blacks?
Well, I do feel like has been some movement towards from when I first started. Do you know what I mean? I started out working with Jackie and Kim, and so all at that time, we cast were the Black TV shows, the Black feature films, you know what I mean? High profile ones at that time. That's when they were allowing, when they were given the high profile Black films to Black casting directors. Now, not so much, which is another topic altogether. But I do feel like, you know, there's a certain amount of Black television that, you know, we're given the opportunity to cast, and in doing so, it's sort of, it depends, all right? Let me just say this. It depends. It's like a twofold question. If I'm casting a Black show, then obviously I'm going to cast Black actors.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If I'm getting the opportunity to cast Black shows, then I'm casting Black actors. If I'm not given that opportunity, then you have, I feel like it's like we're making progress in casting Black characters, but we're not making the same progress behind the scenes. Again, an altogether different conversation. So while I do feel like there are more roles, they're making more television that highlight Black characters. I know that a lot of the roles were, at one point, it felt very sort of tokenish in a way, where you'd have a Black character that was like the sidekick or the best friend, or, you know what I mean? It just felt forced in a situation like, oh, okay, we have to invert some diversity here. Where I feel like now you will have shows like, you know, Insecure or Atlanta, or now, you know, P-Valley, you know what I mean? Or, you know, the Empires, those shows where it felt more cultural in a way. So yeah, there's definitely movement in that direction, but there's still a lot of work to be done in how, you know, these actors, how these stories are depicted in our community, you know, because we are more than just musicians or athletes or strippers or drug dealers or gang members, or, you know what I mean? We are more than that. And I think that when you have these shows that are being made, and the shows that are being made, like, say for instance, let me just put this out there. You have Big Bang Theory, right? How would that look with an all Black cast?
Right.
How would Friends look with an all Black cast? As you know, Beyonce or Jay-Z did a sort of a thing where it was Friends, but it was all Black friends. It can work. It's just sometimes we don't get those same opportunities. So I feel like, yes, we're moving in the right direction, but there's still a lot to do in terms of how we're being portrayed. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. So, Stephen, as an actor, you've been in the business for a long time now. How do you think it's been going for you in terms of the opportunities for you? Do you feel that you've seen it change over the years? How many years do you have in the business now?
About 16, 17 years now, I would say.
Tell me about your experience, especially.
Well, I started at Hampton University. You know, I thought I was going to be behind the camera. In high school, I was taking television courses, and I'm gonna go that far back because I think it's important to go that far back. I was taking television courses. Unfortunately, my high school no longer offers those, so we got to rectify that, hopefully. But you know, I fell in love with Spike Lee films, right? And I was like, oh man, once I figured out how to dolly somebody around and get that shot, you know, and I would edit all my friends just walking around the hallways, you know, to music that was made by friends of mine that are now in the industry making beats and stuff. So I went to Hampton University because I wanted to study cinematography, but I also wanted to go to a Black school. And when I got there, they said they didn't have cinematography anymore. They hadn't had it in 6 years. I had an old booklet, you know, which is sort of thing happens at HBCUs, unfortunately. but it was like 16 women to every guy. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna leave. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna figure it out. And so I decided to stay, and I took photography classes and I studied mass media. But while I was at Hampton, I was lucky enough to get a job working at a hip hop clothing store. And this guy that was based in Virginia Beach named Ralph Reynolds, he had a company called RP55 at the time, and he would bring his stuff to the store. And I would just be sitting in there by myself looking through Source magazines. And I was like, Ralph, come on, man, you got to put me in your ads, right? And I was doing all these fashion shows on campus. So he finally he goes, okay, you ready? You want to do one of my ads? And then I was his like lead model for the next like 3 or 4 years, right?
Wow.
So I graduated, came back to New York, started selling copiers, was still doing the modeling thing, didn't really love it. And then my mother passed away. When she passed away, I needed to do something with all of the energy and the sadness that I felt. And I started, a friend of mine, she's a dancer you may know. Her name is Kendra Reevy. She goes by Binky.
Yeah, Binky, absolutely.
Yeah, so Binky, we grew up together in the same building in New York. I grew up half New York, half Jersey. And Binky said to me, she said, you should take some acting classes. And I heard there's a woman named Susan Batson at Black Nexus. So I went and I found her, and I've been taking classes ever since with Susan Batson. So that was kind of how I got into the business. But it took me, I want to say, I gave myself a 4 to 5 years before I would even say I was an actor. I didn't think I was good enough. You know, some people take one class and then they go around saying they're an actor. I felt like I needed to earn it. And it took me 6 years before I got on my first TV show, which was Law and Order. So I felt like I earned now being able to say that I'm an actor, finally.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you feel though, Stephen? How do you feel in terms of being a Black actor? Do you feel like since you started that things have changed? Like, do you feel that you've been, up for more roles? Do you feel like it's the same when you first started in the business? Like, have you seen that the business has sort of opened up a little wider in more casting opportunities for you, that not the typical, gangster or athlete or, sort of forced, Black best friend, like Leah said?
I think I've been lucky enough to play not the quote unquote stereotypical characters. Right now, my character is probably a superhero without the cape. My character owns his own business. This is the logo for the business. A helicopter business. I'm ex-military. Saved the day a bunch of times because I had, just by the fact that I have a helicopter and it's the only thing faster than the Ferrari on our show. I'm a great, I'm the friend, of the show, but it's more of a brotherhood as opposed to like a sidekick kind of thing. So you get this like military brotherhood that comes into play.
Good.
And I've had a little love interest. I needed that. I needed that to kind of like give me some full humanity kind of thing. Right. And I think that, if you have a movie, you don't get to be as fleshed out. But if you have a television show that goes season, you as the Black guy are not on the show that's not Afro-centric, are not going to be fleshed out in the first season. It'll start to come, more and more will come. And then you got to also be able to open your mouth and say, hey, why don't we do this? Or why don't we do that? And you have to know how to do it in a diplomatic way to where you're actually heard and you're not kind of like pushed away and be like, this guy just wants to take over. So I do that. And I feel like my character is growing.
So you feel like you're heard on Magnum PI?
I do. There are things that I called it in the first season. I said, first season, you get to know me as the character. And second season, I feel like, I should have a love interest. And I did have a love interest in the second season.
Good.
And Mr. T was going to play my father, but something happened and it fell through. And I missed out on that one.
Let's bring him back.
He might still come back. You never know.
I could see you look like you could be Mr. T's son.
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. So I want to make sure that I'm steering us in the right direction here, because I know we don't have a lot of time and I don't want to keep Leah too long. And I really want to talk about supporting Black actors, which is what this is about. So part of what we did, Leah, as we mentioned to you, is that we asked the actors, the African American actors at Gray Talent Group, my great agency, to to sort of send in any questions that they had, any concerns that they had about the future of Black casting, so to say. It's kind of hard to predict the future, even more so now, right? With COVID and everything being shut down. But a couple of the questions are listed. We actually shared some of the questions with you. Do you have any that stood out to you that you'd like to share?
I can answer whichever ones you know what I mean. I'm happy to answer
Okay.
whichever ones you feel.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure that I get some of their questions, that I ask some of the questions for them, okay? Because they're all on here. There are people watching, listening. Anybody that has questions, you can go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. Okay, so one of the questions and one of the questions I liked was, well, you sort of asked that. How can you give us a short answer of how has diversity in casting changed since you've been in the business? How has it changed?
I definitely feel that it has changed from when we first started. When I first got into casting, it definitely has changed. But I do, like I said earlier, I feel like there's still some ways to go. I know for me, being on it's no longer called the diversity committee for CSA. It's now called the Equity in Entertainment Committee. And because diversity just felt very sort of it just felt like, you know, it was a word that was being thrown around with not much
Yes.
things behind it, not much effort behind it. Like all of a sudden it was just like, oh, we're gonna pop up with these diversity departments at these networks, and where, you know, they're supposed to be, you know, inclusion, but it was just like, oh, well, you know, as long as they're taking the meetings, then they're doing their part, but there was no real accountability for it. So right. I think what happened is now, and honestly, it's so crazy that what happened to George Floyd then snowballed a whole movement, not just in, you know, in our everyday lives and what we deal with as African Americans, just throughout, you know, again, our daily routines. It sort of trickled over into all businesses, Hollywood, corporate America. People started really speaking out about the injustice that, you know, is being served overall. And in doing that, I think it made everybody sort of like, hey, take a real look at it, not just having lip service, but really take a look at what you're really actively doing to change that. Like, what are you really doing? Yeah, you can refer someone for a job, but are they going to get the job?
Right.
You know what I mean? If they're qualified.
Are they open to a really, Black person to head, you know, their mergers and acquisitions department?
Exactly. And so I think
let's keep it real.
Yeah. And so I think that's really what why they changed the name. Part of the reason why they changed the name, because it was more about equity and equity. What are you really putting into it? Not just lip service. And all sorts of other things about how they unconscious bias, or sometimes not so unconscious, you know what I mean, as really making or have had an effect. So I think, again, it's changing. It has changed. There's still, you know, baby steps, but I think unconsciously, you have things that were happening that they now have to, people are calling people out by name.
Yeah.
And so it can no longer be that way. It's not like, you was a side chick and used to keep your mouth shut just because you're a side chick. Now it's like, no, we're going to call you out because this is what you're doing and it's wrong. And you're not going to tell me how I get to talk to people because now you're tone policing me and
Right.
you want me to say it in a way that's going to make you feel comfortable. But this is not made, this is not supposed to be a comfortable conversation.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Everything that's happening has been uncomfortable. So, and listen, I'm one of the lucky ones, but it's not just for me. I'm one of, there's maybe 20 Black casting directors. Do you know what I mean? That's ridiculous in this day and age. That
how many?
Maybe 20.
Okay.
And
they
don't all carry the title casting director. Most of them are associates. Do you know what I mean? And outside of that, there's probably 6 of us that really work constantly.
Right.
You really, really think about it, that's calling Black actors in. The other, work for either, our white counterparts or our, white passing counterparts. And so it became, it's definitely something that I think needs more awareness, but I do think that they're trying to move in the right direction. Do you know what I mean? I do feel like there's some effort being put in now where it's less lip service and more, hey, how can we really fix this?
Yeah, I think so too. I think we can all agree that for maybe the first time, we are all feeling that, like, that, George Floyd's and Breonna Taylor's and all of them who, rest in peace, bless their souls. I think that, I think that their lives won't be in vain because of it.
Right.
The fact that we can even have this conversation, that there could even be an activism towards helping support Black actors is telling. The New York Times wrote, "Race in American cinema has rarely been a matter of simple step-by-step progress. It has more often proceeded in fits and starts, with backlashes coming on the heels of breakthroughs and periods of intense argument followed by uncomfortable silence." I love that. I love that. It's exactly what you just said, right? Like, we've all been there, that, well, definitely those of us who've spoken up, who've, been bold enough to say, what, that's not right.
Yeah.
And how are you listing all of the credits, and my credit ain't here, and I'm a lead in this, so I'm a,
or not just that, because I had to make, even with CSA, and CSA is definitely making strides, I will say that. But when I was on the board, they didn't know what ABFF was. Wow. And that was in 2016.
How is that possible?
ABFF, exactly. And ABFF is now what, in their 20-year anniversary?
Exactly. They're
How do you not know about the biggest Black film festival in Hollywood, and you're casting directors, and you're like a sort of, not a union, but a club, if you will.
Yeah, how is that possible?
You don't know, and it's a testament to, hey, we go out, we find the Stephen Hills, and then when they cast the Stephen Hills, all of a sudden it's just like, oh, look who we discovered. It's like, no, he been here.
Okay. Okay.
Years.
Been here.
You just discovered him, but we've known him.
He got all kind of awards, all kind of accolades. I mean, I'm talking about, I mean, it hurts my heart, Leah. It hurts my heart when I think of.
But I don't want to get away from what we're talking about, because this is a sidebar, all right? So let's we can totally get into this. This is more about helping, so because I'm sorry, because I'm very passionate about this.
It's a conversation that needs to be had. I'm not here to play. It's a conversation that needs to be had. It's part of the conversation. It's all good. That the talent is amazing at ABFF, and so yeah, it boggles my mind that.
Can I piggyback on what she said about?
Yes, please.
First of all, I just want you guys to know I'm not here as as an expert. I'm here as a student. You know, I'm writing down. So it's good to know. I didn't know the number. I always wondered that 20 Black casting directors, and then the Equity and Entertainment Committee, which is another good point to know. But I want to say, you know, whatever we name it, I think that intention is important.
That's right.
And when it comes to diversity, I think, and it's just, I hope I'm wrong, but I think I'm right, that the intention with, you know, when you hear Black folks say, you know, they want diversity, they really just want more Black people. When you hear Asians say they want diversity, they just want more Asians, and so on and so forth. So I think we'll really start to see diversity when you're on a Black show and you're like, yo, how come we don't have any Asian guys here? Or how come my friend can't be a white guy? You know what I mean? Or if you're on a white show, so on and so forth. I will say that Magnum PI is probably one of the more diverse shows on television, but not necessarily one of the most watched shows by African-American audiences, because now I'll give you a quick story. When we first got here a couple years ago, our showrunner asked us to come in early so we can go to this event called RIMPAC. RIMPAC is when all of the Navy fleets from all over the world come to Hawaii for an event, right? And we met this guy. There are 11 US aircraft carriers. I met an admiral on one of them, Black man. He had a TC tattoo from the original Magnum PI. That's how big that character was to him, that now this man is the top brass on one of 11 US aircraft carriers because he joined the armed forces because of the character that I now play, right? But back then, he was probably the only Black male that wasn't comedy besides Mr. T. You know, it was like him and Mr. T and maybe, you know, LeVar Burton or somebody like that, you know, but everyone else was in a comedic role. So that was really important back then. And we would run to a show that had the one Black guy because it was like, yo, it's a Black guy on the show? Oh, I'm watching, you right? But now it's like, oh, it's only one Black guy on this show? I ain't watching that. You know what I mean? Wow. So, but it's a diverse show, right? So it's myself, it's we have 2 white leads, we have 2 Asian leads. I'm the only Black guy, but in terms of it being a diverse show, we have several Hawaiians, you know.
No, that's good. That's good.
So
see, that's what we want, right? We want
it's that. Probably one of the more diverse shows on television, but are we running to diversity? Are we running to actually support diversity? Are we saying it? Is it a thing to say? Is it, like you said, you had to change the name from diversity in casting because it's one of those, you know, we grab these words and they become part of the canon and everybody just likes to, you know, run with the word. But what's the intention behind it? And is the intention to actually be diverse?
Accountability.
Yeah. And that sits with us. That's not the big bad engine that's pushing that. The engine has done its job in brainwashing us. But what are we gonna do? Do we really want diversity? Are we supporting those shows that have diversity? We have to ask ourselves that.
Listen, I don't watch Magnum PI because I don't like cop shows. So, but my husband watches it. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's good to know. I like to know that.
He watches it. He watches that other. He watches so many shows. Like he watches the one with what's the other one with oh God.
Well, tell him to hit me up.
Oh gosh, why is his name escaping me? Handsome, light skin. He's been around forever. Started on the Stopes.
Shamar Moore.
Shamar Moore. He watches that show, and then he watches this new one with I'm sorry, I'm like,
I shouldn't be able to call Shamar Moore. Just only thing you said was handsome light skin started on the show.
But that goes to show you what we got on television. My point exactly. My point exactly.
Absolutely.
That speaks to my point. But I say that to say, like, that's just not my genre. SWAT. Thank you, Clinton.
Thank you, Clinton.
And then, but he also watches the one with that's now on Fox, Deputy or something like that. That's his thing. That's his jam. You know what I mean? He loves, like his father was cowboys. This, cowboys and Indians, this is his thing. He loves like these kind of shows. I don't necessarily get into procedurals either. I like more character drama driven shows. You know what I mean? That's my sort of sweet spot. So although I'm not opposed to casting them, because mama ain't gonna run away from a check, but that's just my thing. And I do think that I think men especially their demographic is different than a woman's demographic.
I was going to bring that up.
A man is going to watch whatever they don't care. They just, you know what I mean? In my house, they don't care.
Right.
It's sports.
In my house either.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Whereas me, I'm going to look for things that are a little more, tugging at, emotion, if you, so to speak.
Well, we got that over here, Magna PI. Come on over here and watch the Magna PI.
All right. I'll sit down one day and watch it with them instead of watching my home and garden show.
Yes. Oh, and my job before this was landscaping. So, if I wasn't acting, I would be landscaping. So I probably watch all the home and garden shows with you. That's why I noticed your background. I was like, yo, that's where I want to live. I want that. I want farmland and I want horses. That's what I want.
Stephen, you made a really, really good point though, and I heard you, and it's very true. It's such, for us as African American, it's such an emotional roller coaster though, right? So first we want to see us, in these shows. Then we do see us. Then it's not enough of us. Right, and now we don't want to watch.
But here's the thing, but it's not necessarily that we don't want to watch because there's not enough of us. Because I had to be educated when I jumped on the diversity committee when it was called that. You know what I mean? Because it's not just about diverse people with different ethnic background. Diverse is trans. Diverse is
that's right. Absolutely.
Actors with disabilities. Do you know what I mean? So there's so many ways of diversity can be included in programming. And I always feel like their shows are much more interesting when you have real diversity in a program. Do you know what I mean? Like because you don't go outside and just see blonde hair, blue eyes, or black men. That's, you don't go out. You see a complete, melting pot of people, whether they're, trans, whether they're gay, whether they're, Asian or whatever their background is. You see so many people. So I feel like that should be reflected. And honestly, before I jumped on the diversity committee, but again, you have these microaggressions that happen. And when it came time for the diversity committee for them to build that panel, everybody just looked at me. And I'm just like, well, why y'all looking at me? Because I'm the only diverse person in the room.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, help us get this off the ground, which I didn't take offense to, but it's just, those are the things that happen when you are sort of put in those, in sort of those positions. And I had to learn, okay, it's not just about different ethnic backgrounds, If I'm hiring someone, if the role calls for a wheelchair user, then you know what? Let me see if I can find a wheelchair user. And when we were casting trans actors for Star, when we first started Star in, I think that was in 2000, when did Star come? 2016 or 17? I can't remember what year when we first did the pilot, but we were looking for a trans actress, and there was no agencies that had trans actresses. Literally, we had to do an open call. We had to do an open call. That was the only way we were going to find. And a lot of the actresses that were trans, you had some, I shouldn't say, you didn't, but when I put out a breakdown and I'm looking for a regular role, I could get up to, 2,500 submissions. When I put a role out for that, I literally got 5, not even joking, 5 submissions. Okay. Wow. And So you have to dig deeper. We had to have an open call. The problem at that time was that you didn't have actors, a lot of the trans actresses that fit that particular criteria, what we were looking for, didn't have a lot of acting experience. Do you know what I mean? Because there was nothing called for them to do. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, well, why would they take acting classes when it ain't no jobs for them? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I get it. But I say that to say, 4 years later, when the show is now in series and we're casting a trans friend for the trans lead that we found, I literally had a session with like trans actresses that my producer could really choose from, and really had choices, 5 solid choices of any one of these people. And that's only because as these shows go on and these characters are built and they're adding these diverse roles in there and staying true to those diverse roles, then you have a need for these people to now say, hey, maybe I should take some acting classes. And it just, it's so, yeah. Yeah, it does. It made me happy.
Let's give a shout out to Laverne Cox, who studied with me at Black Nexus. We take classes together. And I'm also going to give a shout out to Brian Michael Smith, who in one of those indie films, but brother by the name of Tony Clomax, we did a web series, and he plays is a cop in that as well. So, you know, these people are around, you know, but not necessarily in the mainstream. They're out here on the indie film circuit. You know?
I love it. Let me ask you a question. As a casting director, Leah, how are you receiving these days, you know, when the character is supposed to be white and you get a casting director who submits an Asian person or a Black person for the role? How flexible are you with presenting that to your producers and to your director?
There was a point in my career where I didn't do it, where I just was like, what's on the page is what I'm going to present to them, because I was, you know, I was young in my career and nervous about rocking the boat, not wanting to, you know, lose my job because I wasn't paying attention to what they wanted. And it's only now that I've, you know, over the past, I would say 6 or 7 years, that I've just realized my voice is just like, hey, how can this person be this? Or, hey, I really want to bring in some other choices, or, you know, or different kinds of actors for this particular role. So I think it takes for you to really be confident in your voice and knowing that you're a part of the team as opposed to just servicing them. You know what I mean? You're a part of the team. Yeah, so I think you're trying to be as creative as they are, and you want it to, and if it feels like it could be right, if it's some nondescript character, then why can't it be?
Right.
You
so
know,
let me ask you another question. From a scale of 1 to 10, how many times have they taken your casting advice to change the character from, you know, a non-Black character to a Black character to a Latino character?
I can't count. I can't say a number, but I know that you know, I've been respected in making those opinions. Now, they may respect them and not do them.
Right.
But I have been respected in the fact that they say, oh, I hear you. Let a mental note, like even when casting All American, making sure that all the bad guys that lived in, you know, the hood weren't all dark skinned. Do you know what I mean? Because we don't need to see our Black brothers always dark skinned being the, you know, that portrayed in that way. So I was very conscious of doing that. And then all the girls that live in Beverly Hills don't have to be light skinned and mixed race.
That's right.
So it just, you know, so it's just really introducing colorism to them as well, because a lot of times they're not aware of it. You know, they really just are not aware. It's just them being educated on, hey, this is what this looks like.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So how many times has it happened? I just want like an honest, take on how many times has it happened where you have said, yes, I think this is a great actor. I think, he really fits the part. She fits the part. This is a great role. And they have gone Black when it wasn't a Black, character originally.
Oh my God, Josie, I gotta think about that. You're putting pressure on me right now.
Okay. I just want to know, has it happened?
I gotta think about it. You're talking about 30, you're talking about some.
Yeah, 30 years.
And I gotta pinpoint something.
I'm just saying, has it happened once? Has it happened?
Oh, it definitely has happened. I would say maybe 3 or 4 times over, just when I think about like the shows that I had.
30 years. I'm just saying.
Yeah, listen, you preaching to the choir.
Okay.
I do feel like there are times when it has happened, but I feel like it's most of the time it has to make sense too. Do you know what I mean? You can't just say, hey, let's put a character in here because you feel like there's not a Black character. It does have to serve the story.
Right. It has to make sense, of course.
Yeah.
Right? It has to make sense. I feel that things, we've definitely come a long way. We know that, we can see that, right? We can see that, Stephen, right? We've come a long way. I guess what's it looking like to you? Just moving forward. Like, what's your, just based on where we're at? What are some of the changes that you think we're gonna see, Leah? Can you speak on that? Is that a fair question to ask you? Like,
I'm sorry, I thought you were directing that to Stephen. What were you saying?
I was saying that with where we at today and where we stand with all that's happening in the world right now, and I really feel that we've really come to a place where this is real conversation, real accountability. People are stepping up. We're better together. So, everyone's, I feel like, stepping up, right? And so what could this look like for us? I mean, what could it look like for the future of casting?
I mean, it's definitely not just casting, it's storytelling as well. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's definitely storytelling as well. I think that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing come from the storytellers and how they want to see us portrayed. And then, and I think that now is the time where people, you have your executives that are listening only because of what's happening, and then the success of the shows that do have, when you look at the success of all these shows that, that are primarily Black cast shows or diverse shows, they do have an audience. So you can't deny that they don't have like, a following or that there's not people that want to watch. You can't deny it. It's not like before when, they would just cancel a show without really giving it a shot. I think now, they're really at least trying to give these shows a fair chance to, to gain an audience.
So hold on, because I'm going to go to one of the questions that one of the actors was asking, which is, what are shows or films that are doing a good job of highlighting an inclusive cast? What are those shows? What are those shows?
Well, I mean, you have Stephen Hill. You have on his show. You have
Magnum PI himself is Mexican.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. And obviously we know that wasn't necessarily. Who was that? Was that Tom Selleck?
Yes, Tom Selleck. And Tom Selleck has an entire several generations of young white guys that probably looked up to him as a role model. A lot of Black men too. He was, that was that time of looking up to this super hyper masculine male character on television and like saying, hey, I want to be that guy, and the guy with the cool car and the guy with all the girls and so on and so forth. Now, we have more types of people to look at on television as opposed to it just being when you see a Black guy or when you see a male, he's the hyper masculine male. Now there's like several different types of men. There, like, as we say, now there's everyone that is a part of the LGBTQ community as well now. So there's one of my favorite, I'm a straight Black male. But I'll tell you right now, I cry all the time watching Queer Eye. You know what I mean? It's one of my favorite shows on TV. You know, so there's, you know, what does that mean for a kid that gets to grow up and watch Queer Eye now? You know what I mean? Like he can, you know, if he can feel more comfortable in his skin if that's how he identifies, you know? So I think we do have, like, as you have said, Josie, we've come a long way. And I think it's exciting for what's in store in the future.
I think it's super exciting.
But to answer the question, there are a lot of diverse shows. There's the Umbrella Academy. There's Brooklyn Nine-Nine. There's American Horror Story. There's Orange is the New Black. There's what's that other one? Oh gosh.
There's a show on called Runaways that I just binge watched.
Yeah.
Right.
That was pretty fun. That was pretty fun.
I just watched that
Marvel franchise.
It's on Netflix now. The Nun something, Warrior Nun. I literally just binge watched that, which was really, really good. So I do feel like Black Mirror, although it's an anthology, you know what I mean? It definitely is a, you know, so I do feel like there are shows that have like these, you know, strong, diverse casts, you know, that, and it's that, people are saying, what are they saying? I'm sorry, I have a little bout of ADD every now and then. But yeah, I think that they're definitely, you know, again, there's a lot of shows that show diversity and they're really good. Again, I feel like when you have diversity in these shows, even with the what's the name of that? Love, it's on Netflix. There's so many shows on Netflix with diverse cast.
Love at First Sight.
Yeah, is that what it is? Is that the one? Or Love, Education of Love?
I don't know.
It's with a bunch of kids that I forget what it's called, but I have like
you got me feeling like I'm on the game show. I'm like, Love at First Sight.
All you have to do is go to the top 10 and you're going to see all of them. And they're all diverse cast and they're all really, really good. So I say that to say, yes, I do feel like there are shows with diverse casts that are very...
Sex education.
Sex education,
that's it.
Got it. Okay, so listen, we're about at an hour and I don't want to keep you guys much longer, but I really want to make sure that I get to ask some of these questions that the actors are asking. Some of them are sort of unrelated to supporting Black actors, so I'm trying to just be picky about what we're talking about here. One of the questions is, how do you envision best practice for agencies to protect Black actors and actors of color from harmful work environments?
Well, I mean, I think that there was a time, again, there was a time when agents, you know, really thought that, I think,
say it, girl,
that they were, you know, trying to help them advance the careers of certain actresses. So you had them, you know, hey, this producer wants to meet with you, or this, you know, director wants to meet with you. And I think it was done, obviously with the knowledge of knowing that this person didn't necessarily have the best track record for, you know, being alone with some maybe young actors. And they, you know, but I think that Me Too really, really put the kibosh on that. And thank goodness, because there was a lot of things that needed to stop. And people turned a blind eye to in Hollywood. Just because of, you know, out of fear. So I'm thinking that I think now agents are much more protective of their clients because of it. I think when it happened, a lot of actors left their agents because of it. When it first hit the scene, a lot of people said, you know what, you put me in that position. And so, no, I'm not feeling you because you really didn't have my best. But you know, at the time, especially if you're a young actress and you don't know any better and you're trying to get ahead, you think that if someone that's telling you that you trust is saying, hey, you need to go and meet with this person, it really, and that person is a big name, or your agency is a very reputable agency, you're gonna take their advice. Do you know what I mean? And so
Of course.
it's sad, but it happened. And I think that now they have a responsibility to protect their clients. You have, especially your, all clients should be protected, but especially these young ingenues that come out here bright eye and bushy tail, you know what I mean? Thinking that, oh, it's all good, and they really need to be protected.
Got it. Here's another one. What continues to surprise you about the business?
Stephen?
Yeah, this is a one for both of you. What continues to surprise you about the business? As an African-American man and an African-American woman.
Just how much we have an audience. I have an audience as an African-American actor abroad. Some of the fans that reach out to me every day don't, I would assume they don't have a lot of brothers like me that grew up in Jersey and Harlem, around them in, say, France or Spain, and they reach out to me every day. I literally have fans follow me from Spain and France every single day.
Wow.
So that it just surprises me that just how much people are okay with my image across the globe.
Got it. Yeah. What about you, Leah?
What continues to surprise me? Listen, I gotta tell you, I'm not gonna cuss, when things happen in this business, I'm always like, nothing really surprises me these days when I hear about certain things. I really I might be like, but I don't think I get much surprise. Do you know what I mean? When I think about surprise, I mean, I guess if I had to put split hairs,
right,
I would say it's surprising how much, even though we support each other, we don't support each other.
Right.
Boom.
That part.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add on that?
Yes.
Yeah, so, but we are going to end on a high note, right?
Oh, yeah, we are. But I think this is very important. One of the things that was very surprising to me is, it becomes very lonely, right? Because you can't really go home, so to speak, in the same capacity, because people think that you've made it, right? So on and so forth. And then the people that are, your peers that are trying to get up in the ranks as well, then they look at you and they think, oh, everything's got to be great for you. Like, what are you complaining about? That sort of thing. So it kind of like insulates you a little bit. But there's a funny thing that happened that I noticed during the Corona, because I have more time and I'm always on social media. And I noticed that a lot of Black actors and Black peers unfollowed me on Instagram and on social media recently. And it's like people that I've worked with, they don't follow. There's this like unwritten rule. I don't know what's going on, but there's this thing where it's like, everybody should follow me. I don't want to follow anybody else. Everybody wants to be at the cool table in the lunchroom, kind of, so to speak. And I think as African Americans, we don't have that luxury to be acting like that. We kind of need to help cultivate one another, because we have the little small farm over here. So if we want a bigger farm, then we have to be able to look at each other and build each other up. I shouldn't be on the same network with another actress or actor that I've been working with for years, and we don't build each other up. Instead, we don't even follow each other. That's ridiculous. So that actually really surprised me. So I'm gonna take this time real quick just to shout out some really dope actors. One of them is on here. His name's Clinton Lowe. He had a couple of things. He's an excellent actor. People should follow him.
That's what's
Tony
up,
Clone.
Stephen.
Yeah, Tony Clomax is on here. People should follow him. A friend of mine, Nidra McClyde, Jamie Lincoln Smith. Who else? Jessica Francis Dukes, who's, her show. She's on this season of Ozark, and they've just got all these Emmy nominations. So,
that show
you
is
know,
out of control. That's my
I just,
show.
yeah, that's just me throwing a few names out there. Ninja DeVoe, you know, just really, really awesome actors and even directors. You know, when we get a chance to build these people up, we need to learn to give each other some shout outs. And if somebody got a show on, shout them out. Yo, check out my boy's show. Check out my
Amen.
homegirl's
Amen.
show. You know, it's not gonna hurt you.
I'm
You
with
don't have
all
to
of
only
that.
talk about your show when it's, you know what I mean? I talked a lot about my
Stephen,
show today, but there's other people that have shows. Go
I'm
check out
all of that.
Simone Missick. She's also on CBS in a show called All Rise. If we want to talk about diversity, we have a Black woman right now with natural hair that is playing a judge on television. Let's check that show out. You know what I mean? Her hair looks just like yours.
Amen. Amen. That's good stuff, Stephen. Let's see. I just want to make sure. So I want to just talk very quickly about, before we end. I want to really talk about. This is a very, 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 very good time to donate. If you've been, if you've really enjoyed the conversation, is the beginning of a few others with some incredible casting directors such as Leah Daniels Butler. But we want to make this an opportunity to give to her charity, to her choice of charities, and that is the Help Give Care Foundation. And you can do that by going to helpgivecare.org/donate. There you can, you can learn more about how you can donate, what's needed. It's a really, really, really great one. They create an avenue whereby celebrities desiring to give back are provided structure, charitable support to their individual causes of personal significance. They're really,
if there are other charities, basically, if I mean, just to give you a little bit of background on Help Give Care, it started out as a we had a son, I'll get a little personal, that was homeless by choice, just checked out on life. You know what I mean? He just checked out on life. He just didn't want to do it anymore. And we have 5 kids.
Your son, Leah?
My son. Okay. One of my sons, yes. Okay. And it was living on the streets. He was, it broke our hearts because no matter what we tried to do, nothing worked. Do you know what I mean? Wow. And what happened was it made us look at the homeless in a completely different light. Because, a lot of times you look at homeless people and you think, you might think, oh, either they're on drugs or, they have mental issues or, you just naturally assume why they're out there. And not saying that those things are not true, but there are some instances where people, have lost their jobs and living paycheck to paycheck, you know what I mean? So there were so many different things, and it really made us look at it in a different light. We knew where he was. We would go and visit him. We would, read the Bible with him. My husband, we pray every morning. My husband is, you wouldn't know it because he is from LA, born and raised, 60th Crenshaw, but he, you know what I mean? So you know what that says about him. But he is
in the rolling 60s.
He's rolling. I'm gonna throw it up for him real quick. But at any rate, he's very enrooted in the church. He's very engraved in the church. He grew up in the church. Him and Dr. Dre and a lot of people don't know that they all grew up in the church. A lot of these cats, Snoop Dogg, like they grew up in the church. All of them grew up in church. Yeah. That's how they got their musical background.
They had a mother, a father praying for them, making them go to church every Sunday. Yes. That's right.
So I say that to say he never gave up on my son. Like, he would go and visit him every day. Our neighbors would tell us if they saw him, if they saw him in a way. And so it really became a village of people looking out for him. And so we started this foundation, Help Give Care, to sort of just raise awareness, because we saw that the population was really, really growing in LA, you know, and it wasn't a moment where, you know, like a photo op. It was, we grabbed a few celebrities. He's friends with Charles Oakley and a few other people from the big league, the Big Five, or that basketball league that they started after retired players. And we had this big, huge block party downtown, and people just started coming, and it snowballed, and we've been doing it every year for the past 3 years. We couldn't do it this year, obviously, because of COVID, but we had music and haircuts and hygiene and food, and it didn't run out. Like, they was getting in line 3 and 4 times. And not just for no regular little hot dog. We had ribs, we had food.
I love it.
And they were so appreciative. And, you know, again, it just shed some, it's homeless but human, because even though they're human beings, and you have to see them as human beings. And so that's the only way we're going to help this clean up the homeless situation in LA. So that's a charity that is dear to me.
Yeah, well, the homeless, they're dear to me too. And God bless you. How's your son doing?
Good.
Good, sweetheart.
Good. Yes. I mean, honestly, it took for him to get locked up and go to jail for 6 months in order for him to really, in order for him to get his life back together. But honestly, he, you know, if that hadn't have happened, he would probably still be out on the streets. And I'm just keeping it 100.
God will use anything to get your attention, to get your life back right.
Thank God for that guy at Starbucks that called the police on him that day.
Okay.
Thank God for him, because if he had not have called the police, he would not have went to jail. And because he had been continuously going in front of the same judge, the judge was like, dude, we're giving you 6 months. Like, you don't care. And at his sentencing, my husband stood up, and the lawyer was saying, no, you can't talk. And he was like, that's my son, I'm going to say something. And the judge saw that he wanted to say something, and he said, this man right here, that's his father. Please let him talk. And he said it. He was like, if you put him back out on the streets, he's going to go through the same thing. Is there a program you can put him in? And they did.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You got to speak up when it's about these young people and these young Black people, because if you don't speak up, you're never going to know. You know, and I think ultimately the system, even though, you know, there's flaws in the system, I think it's put in place with trying to, at least I feel like it's trying to help. You just have to really ask for the help. You got to really be diligent about it. You know what I mean? Really, and do your research. But that's just, you know.
All right. Well, what a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Josie. And thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. It's so awesome. I got a brother from the Rolling 60s watching Magnum PI. Tell him I said thank you.
Oh, sure. Listen.
That's funny. Yeah, guys, please, if you can, you know, it's a free event. If we can really help and give and make, you know, whatever donation, no amount to.
Yeah, whatever. It's no pressure. No pressure.
I got it pulled up. Let's go.
I can't wait to get myself, Leah. I have a big heart for the homeless. I always have, just being raised in New York, you know, that's, you know, also a big issue for us out there. But I don't want to hold you. I hope you guys have enjoyed, those of you that are listening.
Thank you.
Thank you to Great Talent Group, my agents, phenomenal for helping me to pull this together.
Awesome.
Thank you, Stephen, so much. You've been wonderful. I will watch Magnum PI.
I got two more now.
Well, I got 2 more, so I got you. Okay, I got you. Okay, Leah, you're beautiful. You're wonderful. You know, I'll call you right after we're done with this. Thank you, Dawn, and to Alyssa. Thank you to all my great family, my thespians. Hang in there. You know, I'm an acting coach as well, respectforactingacademy.com. So just click on my link on Instagram as Respect for Acting Academy. You can find me as Josie Harris Thacker. I really love actors. I love dancers. I love nice people, period. Just nice people. All right. We can do better. We can be better. Let's all spread love. Let's be better. It starts with you. Okay, that's where it all starts. Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
guys.
One love. Bye, everyone.
Group hug, group hug, group hug.
Stay safe, everybody. That Rona's out there. Don't let Rona get you.
Yes. Bye.